All right, I wanted to do a career video before going to the meetup today. And I went back and forth on different candidates, and I went through old cards of mine from the 80s, and I thought I could do this guy or that guy. But I thought, let's talk about Phil Kessel. Because honestly, now that he's a Coyote and he's going to be wearing this jersey this fall, it'll be interesting to see what happens with him. So Phil Kessel, drafted in the first round by the Boston Bruins. And right out of the gate, they basically gradually put him in the lineup. So 70 games his rookie year, 11 goals, 18 assists, 29 points. Unremarkable, but again, playing further down the lineup and being given a chance to get his feet wet before he really gets the ice time. Boston has done this for decades. 1 power play goal and 5 power play points. Those are the key things here for me, is Phil Kessel's power play presence. So, 2007-2008, plays 82 games, so full season, 19 goals, 18 assists, 37 points. So again, gradually being brought along, pretty good stats. Power play goals, he has 5 of them, 7 power play points altogether. So, decent second year, but there was already some feeling I had that Boston wasn't going to keep him around. and that was just a feeling I had, and then he went through in 2008, 2009, he went through cancer treatments, for which, any player who can go through that and come back and play well, a full marks to him. 70 games played, 36 goals, 24 assists, 60 points. So his first 30-goal season, 8 power play goals, 15 power play points, and then we can start talking about he looks like he could score 50. So at the time that he's traded to Toronto, and the return for that is a couple of first-round draft picks, it honestly doesn't look bad on the Toronto side of things. The reason being, he's exactly what Toronto needed, a goal scorer. At this point in time, Kessel's a sniper. Not known as great setup man, he's a sniper. And you look, he's got 8 power play goals, 15 power play points, so 7 power play assists, 5 power play goals the year before. Toronto could use that kind of power. That first year in Toronto, 70 games played, 30 goals, 25 assists, 55 points. Was it a disappointment? Yes. Did Toronto fail to make the playoffs? Absolutely. Did that magnify a sudden pressure probably on both Phil and on the Leafs? Yes. 8 power play goals that season, 16 power play points. 2010-2011, he plays 82 games in Toronto, 32 goals, 32 assists, 64 points. 12 power play goals, 23 power play points. So he's getting better and better on special teams, which keep his numbers pretty solid. You look, his special teams numbers keep going up. 2011-2012, he has a great year. 82 games, 37 goals, 45 assists, 82 points. 10 power play goals, 23 power play points. What plagues Kessel at this stage is what tends to happen, which is that you have a large media presence in Toronto. Toronto's the largest fan base, so the stats that are being put up by Kessel are slightly overblown and he's slightly overrated by Toronto fans. This cuts both ways. It means great praise when you're doing well, but it means you have wanted posters put up when you're not scoring. So lots of praise when you're doing well, and a lot of, what's the opposite of praise? When you're not performing particularly well. And 2012-2013 in a lockout shortened season, 48 games played, 20 goals, 32 assists, 52 points, 6 power play goals, 21 power play points. So, in a lockout shortened season, he still gets the 21 power play points, only 6 of them are goals, and he gets 20 goals in total that season. So it's a 48-game season, and you'll notice he doesn't miss a game after that. So Kessel is very consistent, doesn't miss games. There's a lot of talk about whether or not he's committed to conditioning. If his conditioning was that bad, he'd miss some games. But I think it's more of if he put in a full effort, then he would probably be a better player. If he put in a full effort, we'd see something more from him. The next season in 82 games, 2013-2014, 37 games played, 43 assists, 80 points, has 8 power play goals, only 20 power play points, which is lower than in the lockout shortened season and in the 2 seasons that preceded it. And again, with Toronto falling short of the playoffs, there's plenty of blame that gets thrown at Kessel. So, great player when things are good, but when things are bad, you kind of point your finger and go, hey, you're the number one guy when it comes to the money side of things. You get paid more than everybody else. And we gave up a lot to get you. You look at Tyler Seguin and Dougie Hamilton and what they become, you're being compared to that. So it's not fair to Phil at this point. And Phil's prickly relationship with the Toronto media, being as it is, definitely means that there's more critical articles of Phil Kessel being written than there probably should be, because he's not very nice to the media. Whether it's straight out ignoring him and saying, I'm not talking to you guys, or just being kind of short with them. 82 games played in his last year in Toronto. 25 goals, 36 assists, 61 points, and it's a miserable year. That was a miserable season. 8 power play goals, 25 power play points. So in the midst of a miserable season, he actually gets the most power play points he had in his entire career to that point. And again, there's a point that I'm trying to make with all this, and we'll get to it. And there was a reason I went into Phil Kessel, of all people, to talk about today. 2015-2016, after being traded to the Pittsburgh Penguins, a trade that I think benefited both teams, because Kapanen, pretty good return so far for the Toronto Maple Leafs. 82 games for Phil, 26 goals, 33 assists, 59 points, 4 power play goals. 4, the lowest he had in his entire career. 17 power play points, the lowest he had since 09-10. So not a great season for Phil, but they win the Stanley Cup. And Phil doesn't need to be a primetime player. He doesn't need to be on the first line. Technically, he doesn't really need to be on the second either. He can play third line, because it's Pittsburgh and there's tons of depth. So while Kessel puts up a low point total, he is a much happier player. The microphones aren't in his face every night. He's not the main guy. So 2016-2017, now the offense starts coming up again as he reinvents himself. 82 games, of course, 23 goals, 47 assists, 70 points. So 47 assists, which is a career high to that stage. 23 goals, which is the lowest he had over a full season since the second year he played in the National Hockey League. 8 power play goals, 30 power play points. 30. This is where you can really see that Phil Kessel is becoming kind of a special teams guy. He is kind of a power play magician out there. And you can look and say, well, look who he's playing with. Look at the guys on that unit. True, but it is still worthy of note that his power play time and power play points have been really strong in Pittsburgh the last few years. 82 games played in 17-18, 34 goals, 58 assists, 92 points. That 34 goals is almost a career high off the 37 that he had in Toronto, the 36 he had in Boston as well. 58 assists, easily a career high, as is 92 points. 12 power play goals, 42 points on the power play. So of 92, 42 of them are on the power play. That's a really high number. 2018-2019, 82 games played, 27 goals, 55 assists, 82 points. Again with 12 power play goals, 36 points on the power play. So he drops 10 points. 6 of the points he loses are power play points. He has played a grand total of 996 games. So it's worthy of note, 4 games into this season, he will play game 1000. 357 goals. Very, very unlikely he hits 400 this year unless he has a 40-goal season in Arizona, which is not the player he is anymore. He's not the big sniper. 466 assists. He will hit 500, I would think, this year. 823 points. May very well hit the 900-point mark this season. 102 power play goals in his career. 280 points on the power play. His importance in going to Arizona could very well be power play. So what I've seen in the 3 projections I've seen through different magazines, and I can see this is, the expectation is wearing this jersey, playing in Arizona, he won't score 82 points because of the power play points. So because he relies on the power play for the points, most of which are assists, prognosticators look and they go, hey, he's not going to have the kind of power play with Arizona that he did in Pittsburgh. But it's both ways with this. You can look at this as an Arizona fan and say, or he's a fantastic passer and he's going to be able to find guys in front of the net. He's going to be able to turn that power play around. And a power play which cost Arizona a lot of games last year, Phil Kessel could potentially help get Arizona back into the playoffs. And if he does, I would expect jersey retirements in Arizona for him. Like at this stage of the game, they would love to see playoff hockey. And if Kessel gets him there, he becomes a hero for the Arizona Coyotes. The one thing I do wonder with Phil, is while he's not going to get the media scrutiny that he did in Toronto, obviously, he will be more heavily scrutinized in Arizona than he was in Pittsburgh because now he's kind of the main player again. There are other really good players in Arizona, but in general, he's kind of the biggest name now. So does he come out and does he have a great season? Or are the prognostications, which I'm seeing 68, 70 points as being standard of what people are expecting of him, is that going to work out? From what I've seen, most are expecting the goals to stay at around 25. They're expecting the assists to drop dramatically. In that, he ends up with about 14 less, about 12 less assists because of who he's playing with. So that's the question when it comes to Phil Kessel. If you're looking at him going into this year, if you're going, should I take him? Should I take him in a hockey pool? Did the Penguins make Kessel better, or did he make his line mates better? And if you look at Phil Kessel and you say, you know what? Those 113 assists he had the last 2 years in Pittsburgh, he's full value for that. He's a good pick. But if you look at that and you go, well, yeah, but who is he passing to? He's not going to have names like that in Arizona. You can see why people think he's going to scale back. I'm on the fence. I really am. I kind of lean towards the idea that he won't be able to score as many points in Arizona as he did in Pittsburgh. But in all honesty, it's Phil. And he is wildly, wildly unpredictable. He's gone from being generally considered a sniper earlier in his career to now he's a setup man. Being a player who gets a lot of his points at even strength, being a player who gets a ton of his points on special teams. Which player shows up for Arizona this year? Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below regarding Phil Kessel and his future and what you think he's going to do, how many points he puts up this year, and is he going to stick around long enough to score 1,000 points? And then the big question if he gets to 1,000 points is going to be, does Phil Kessel someday get in the Hall of Fame? It's a big question we may be asking 3 or 4 years from now. And I think it's going to depend on how things go in Arizona. But he does have a couple of Stanley Cup rings with Pittsburgh, and we know that when it comes to getting into the Hall of Fame, having Stanley Cup rings definitely helps. Let me know your thoughts. As always, don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. Just happened upon this video. And hey, thank you guys so much for watching, for all your attention, and for your time. I appreciate it. I'll talk to you again soon.